Okay, now we want to continue talking about algebra, and in this segment we're going to discuss properties of powers and roots. So in our first example here we have x raised to the 1/3 power. So this whole thing is going to be called an exponential, and then this thing up here is going to be called the exponent. So what does it mean when an exponential has a fraction as an exponent? Well, that means it's a root. So this would be the cubic root of x. If you had x to the 1/5 power, then that would be the 5th root of x. And also, your regular square root of x is going to be x to the 1/2 power. And if you wanted to, you could even put a 2 right there, but we don't. So that x to the 1/2 power is the same thing as taking the square root of x. Okay, the one that's next to it says that y is raised to the 5/7 power. So what does that mean? Well, we know that 1 divided by 7, 1/7, is going to be the same thing as the 7th root of y. But then also notice it's got the 5 there. So that is going to be the same thing as then taking the whole thing and raising it to the 5th power, or it's going to be the same thing as taking the 7th root and then y and then raising it to the 5th power in there. So both of these are equivalent to each other. Then the next one is, what's the significance of a negative exponent? So this one is going to be x to the -2 power, and so what does that mean? So it's going to be 1 over x to the +2 power. So a negative exponent means basically to flip it upside down. The one that's next to it is, well, what if you have two variables like x and y? So x times y, and then the whole thing is raised to the 6th power. What do? Well, that's going to be the same thing as x to the 6th power times y to the 6th power. Okay, now the next one is very, very important, because sometimes you're going to be multiplying exponentials, and we want to know, what do you have to do to the exponent? So you've got x squared, and then you're multiplying that by x to the 5.3 power. So we're multiplying together two exponentials. What do we do to the exponents? We need to add them. So 2 plus 5.3 is 7.3. And then the last example is, well, what about if you are raising an exponential to another power? So our exponential is going to be z squared, and then we're taking the whole thing and then raising it to another power. Well, you notice that this up here, when you multiplied exponentials, you added the exponents. When you raise an exponential, you multiply the two exponents. So it's going to be 2 times 3, which is going to be equal to 6. All right, in our next segment, we want to show an application of this. So we're going to talk about how do you multiply, divide, and then raise to a power numbers that are in scientific notation. And we'll do that in just a moment.